One Zambia, one nation. Welcome to the news. To present, my name is Henry Himonde. The top stories in our news. African leaders cancelled on food policies. Zambians thanked for preserving memory of Dag Hammarskjöld. Government committed to strengthening adolescent health. And newly born baby retrieved from pit latrine. The news in detail. President Hakainde Hichilema has called on African leaders to put in place appropriate food policies which will promote investment in the agricultural sector. President Hichilema has noted that about 140 million people on the continent suffer from acute food insecurity. The president said this in a speech read for him by Minister of Finance and National Planning Tumbeko Musokotwane at the official opening of the Africa Agricultural Leadership Policy Dialogue in Lusaka. Vupesendwe now reports.
Key players in the agriculture sector, including prominent global and Africa policy and industry leaders, have gathered in Lusaka at a high-level dialogue meeting to share experiences and showcase innovative agriculture practices to help address food insecurity on the continent. The two-day meeting is centered on policy reforms aimed at unlocking investment financing opportunities to aid the transformation of Africa's food system. President Hakainde Hichilema was represented at the dialogue by Minister of Finance and National Planning, Tumbeko Musokotwane.
This high-level agricultural policy and leadership dialogue is being convened at a time when most of our countries on the African continent are embarking on much-needed policy and regulatory reforms aimed at ensuring food self-sufficiency and improved livelihoods. Like many countries in the region and around the world, Zambia has not been spared and has felt the impact of rising food and commodity prices arising from the shocks and uncertainties in the global supply chain. This dialogue that we are holding today, therefore, gives us an opportunity to begin to deliberate on the required actions and agricultural policy reforms which will unlock the continent's vast potential and ensure that Africa becomes a major force in the production and supply of food and non-food commodities.
The African Union disclosed that the continent is not on track to meet the food security target.
In Africa, the 2023 African Regional SOFI report released by FAO in April of 2022 indicates just a month ago, indicates that the continent is not on track to meet the food security and nutrition target of the Sustainable Development Goal number 2 and the Malabo target of 2025. We have only 2 years to finish our 10-year action plan of the action plan for the implementation of Agenda 2063, and we are not on track. So the situation is really serious.
The target of agriculture did have some consequences. If we were to go back and change those policies and avoid the decline, any 1% in growth that we could have saved would have promoted industrialization by up to 1.3%.
Meanwhile, the World Bank is optimistic of Africa's potential to accelerate food production through successful implementation of smart policies.
What will it take to accelerate and to build on the successes that we see across the continent, and to turn it into a real spark, something that gets African agriculture and food systems where it can go and supports the development of the continent.
In agriculture, we can regenerate ourselves, especially if we get good agriculture policies going.
Vupesendwe for ZANIS News in Lusaka.
Now, as heads of state and government meet in Lusaka for the 22nd Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa COMESA Summit next week, the cross-border traders are calling on governments in the region to consider establishing regional markets in all countries as a model of trade integration. Mijelo Lubinda caught up with the traders.
The Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa COMESA Market, housed in Lusaka, is one of the models which has been used as a tool for enhancing regional integration. Traders from different countries within the region are free to engage in different trading activities within the market. But as the heads of state and government meet next week for the 22nd summit of the largest regional economic bloc, traders have expectations that they feel should be met in order to facilitate trade at all levels. The traders are also calling on the member states to consider putting up such a facility in all the countries as the way of fostering trade integration.
Ero natusangamo ama benefits muri COMESA ibaleta. Emkwai tulakrosa, tulaku out of Zambia, tulalete findi fuma out of Zambia, tulashitisha, tulasangamo tuma profit, and tulasangamo ama benefits. Aho tulatotela, then tulasungira mona family yesu. Umumuine muno mwine mwali ba mawidozi ama divorce but bala kwanisha kusunga family mulandu ya cross border ine batuletera tula
business yadi shupa pati ya patrice na fyambo kutunguruke fintu filenda febwino so na ifo kutu akabira mukunkwati ku Zimbabwe, South Africa, ku Congo na kwena wakesure ko COMESA market pakwe patrice ture chita business free trade COMESA market.
And COMESA Secretariat shares the details on the importance of the market towards enhancing trade integration at all levels.
At the informal and at that small scale, because they are bringing goods not only from, I would say, from Zimbabwe, they are bringing goods from all over the place. They are bringing goods from, if you go there and you will see that at least 5 to 6 nationals from different countries, they are operating there. I remember there were people from Burundi, there were people from Rwanda, and there were people from Zimbabwe. So imagine, they might have increased. I remember some time back that there were 5 to 6 countries represented there and selling their products there. So already you can see the trade between COMESA by these 5 informal traders have improved. And if we provide such facilities in all countries, definitely these are means for improving our intra-COMESA trade.
COMESA is also planning to formalize small-scale cross-border trading in order to improve the lives of the people within the region.
I know that one of the biggest challenges for now, for the informal to be formal, they believe that immediately when they become formal, they will have to start paying taxes. And that our call to the government is that they should not be charging them because they need to be supported first. They need to be supported first, provide them with all the assistance that they need, let them grow, and then at some point in time when they have grown up, then you look at those things. For now, they need just our support. And imagine if they can, if you look at
Michero Lubinda for ZANIS in Lusaka.
And the bilateral discussions aimed at enhancing economic trade and cultural exchange between Mosiko in Angola and Western Province in Zambia through road and rail have continued. Western Province Minister Kapelo Mbangweta, who is in Angola for a 3-day working visit, was in Luau district in Mosiko Province. More in the following report.
The consolidation of the bilateral relations between Zambia and Angola has reached an advanced stage, with Zambia committing to provide professional expertise to its neighbors. A Zambian delegation from Western Province is on a 3-day working visit to reciprocate the Angolan delegation, which was led by Governor of Mosiko Province that visited Western Province last month. Governor of Mosiko Province, Ernesto Mwangala, stated that the province is privileged to have the state-of-art equipment and infrastructure in its health, education, and agriculture sectors, but yet lack adequate staff to work in them.
As áreas que a nossa parte
things that our province needs from Zambia mostly is the technical. We have modern hospitals which were constructed less than 10 years ago.
Hospitais modernos, construídos há menos de 10 anos.
With the latest technology, but all we lack is adequate specialists.
Provincial Minister for Western Province, Kapela Mbangweta, who was taken on a tour by the governor, visited the Moshiko Maternity Hospital, High Polytechnic Institute, and Moshiko General Hospital, where he assured his counterpart of being up to the task to provide professional expertise to the country.
So in terms of the hospitals, obviously we have a lot of capacity back home. I'm sure with proper arrangements, they could also come and benefit from the availability of working tools which are here in abundance. We are going to pursue that vigorously to make sure that it comes to a useful conclusion for both countries.
Western Province Education Officer said the visit to Angolan schools is an eye-opener to the country.
What we have seen here, indeed, as the Minister has said, is quite motivating and thought-provoking.
Republican President, His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, earlier this year made strides with his Angolan counterpart, João Lourenço, to strengthen the two countries' bilateral relations, which has seen the two provinces exchanging these diplomatic visits. Mulimas Tumbeko reporting for ZANIS in Luena district of Moshiko Province in Angola.
United Nations Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations Jean-Pierre Lacroix has thanked Zambians for preserving the memory of Dag Hammarskjöld, the second United Nations Secretary General, who died in a plane crash while pursuing peace in the then Congo in 1961. Tovin Ngombe has the rest of the story.
United Nations Under-Secretary General for Peace led dignitaries today in remembering the life of Dag Hammarskjöld, the second UN Secretary General, who died in a plane crash in Angola on the Copperbelt while pursuing for peace in the then Congo on 18 September 1961. The UN Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations has called on countries to preserve the ideals of Dag Hammarskjöld to pursue a life of peace among humanity.
Extremely grateful to Zambia for having preserved the memory of Dag Hammarskjöld in such a dignified manner until these days. It means a lot to the United Nations, it certainly means a lot to us, and it also means a lot, I believe, to humanity, because by honoring the memory of Dag Hammarskjöld, we are paying tribute to the values, to the ideals that this incredibly inspired leader carried with him.
Province Minister Elisha Matambo thanked the UN representative for gracing the occasion.
Thank you for finding time to come and visit us in the Copperbelt Province and actually visit the site where a great man, a great servant of people and a servant of God died, a servant of the peace. We are grateful and we wish you a good stay, even though I know it's a short stay on the Copperbelt.
Dag Hammarskjöld site manager highlights the value of Dag Hammarskjöld's life.
The ideals of peace, human rights, human freedom, human dignity, and self-determination becoming the blueprint of Dag Hammarskjöld. Though a sad moment, we are somewhat lucky guest of honor that Dag Hammarskjöld had to die here, because before we are born as a country, we had to appreciate the consequences of conflict.
Dag Hammarskjöld died in Angola were on the mission to then rebrave Congo to broker peace for the country, which was engulfed in conflict soon after gaining independence. The former Secretary General is cherished for dying while on a peace mission, which is essential for every nation. Tovini Ngombe, ZANIS, Angola.
We continue with the news. Copperbelt Province Permanent Secretary Augustine Kasongo says the purchasing of 156 vehicles by government for all constituencies shows that there is a strong recognition for monitoring and evaluating projects across the country. Mr. Kasongo says the vehicles will be used to monitor projects which are being done using the Constituency Development Fund. He adds that the vehicles will be used to evaluate how the funds are being utilized by the committees. The Permanent Secretary said this when a parliamentary committee on cabinet affairs called on him at his office. And committee chairperson Andrew Lubosha says the committee is on a 3-day working visit to meet stakeholders on how they are implementing and monitoring and evaluating the policy.
You will appreciate that the flagship program of CDF under the new Dawn government has procured vehicles for all the constituencies across the country for monitoring of projects. This entails that there is a strong recognition for monitoring and evaluation in the country and value for money. In all the process highlighted, both state and non-state actors work as a team and complement each other to bring about the desired results for the betterment of this country.
In your province, PS for 3 to 4 days, and our visit is to check on the implementation of the monitoring and evaluation policy that was introduced by government in 2019. We want to see how the provincial administration is implementing that policy and how it's trickling down to the district and sub-district. So,
in Mchinga Province, Motomoto Museum Keeper Assistant in Ethnography John Mkupa has advised the committee in charge of establishing the provincial museum to be innovative. Speaking when a team of officers from Mchinga Province visited Motomoto Museum in Mbala in Northern Province, Mr. Mkupa said the museum should be able to cater for the past, present and the future. Miriam Kumwenda now reports.
A combined team of officers from provincial administration has taken time to visit Motomoto Museum in Mbala District, Northern Province, to learn more and acquaint themselves with the operations of the museum before a provincial museum is set in Mchinga Province. John Mkupa is Motomoto Museum Keeper Assistant in Ethnography.
Motomoto Museum, being a tourist attraction center, it attracts international tourists as well as local tourists. Apart from just being a museum where people could come and maybe see what we have, it is also a research institution. A museum has to be there so that it can cater for the present and the future generation.
Udens Kawe, who is Mchinga Provincial Culture and Tradition Affairs Officer in the company of other officers, says the tour of the museum is worthwhile.
And want to know how we can arrange. We learn 1 or 2 things from here to start the process of establishing a museum.
Yes.
So thank you very much for the explanation.
Mr. Mkupa further had a word of advice.
So it has to cater for almost everyone, because you don't expect people in Mchinga to be visiting the museum. So you should expect people from different provinces to visit the museum at Mchinga. So as you do your exhibitions, make sure that you cater for everyone, so that when people come there, they can learn a lot of things about Mchinga, the history, and a lot more, depending on how we are going to set up the museum and the exhibition that you put in place.
Miriam Kumwenda reporting for ZANIS in Mbala District, Northern Province.
In health news, government has pledged more support towards strengthening adolescents and young people engagements at all levels. Minister of Health Sylvia Masebo says achieving adolescent health for all demands that stakeholders rise to the occasion and fully support adolescent health as a matter of priority. The minister said this today when she officially opened the 3rd Regional Adolescent Health Indaba in Lusaka. Here are the details.
They have come from different parts of the African continent to attend the 3rd Regional Adolescent for Health Indaba in Lusaka. The youths have convened to discuss health challenges faced by young people in the Eastern and Southern African region.
We believe that this Indaba is a critical opportunity for different stakeholders, especially adolescents, to share experiences and work towards finding sustainable solutions to these challenges.
Minister of Health Sylvia Masebo graced the opening of the Indaba.
Ministry of Health will support the youth platform to ensure that these forums go to all the 116 districts of Zambia. Next year, support this group of youths to ensure that they go further to the districts in providing a platform for the young people that are in all the 116 districts in the spirit of devolution, decentralization to the districts.
Different stakeholders were also present and shared their thoughts.
More than half of the people living with HIV in the world are actually living in Africa, women and girls being disproportionately affected, accounting for 63% of the region's new HIV infections.
The adolescent girls and young women are the ones who are largely affected, with them contributing 80% of those new infections among the young people. It's a worrying factor. And because it's a worrying factor, it calls for us to hear from you.
To date, the U.S. government through PEPFAR has committed over $6.7 billion to Zambia's HIV response. In partnership with the Zambian government, PEPFAR Zambia endeavors to work closely with the Global Fund, UNAIDS, and indeed the entire UN family, and civil society to make sure all Zambians, regardless of age, sex, or gender, have access to HIV and sexual and reproductive health services across the country.
The 3rd Regional Adolescent Health Indaba was held under the theme Closing the Gap of New Infections through Meaningful Youth Engagements, Involvements and Leadership. Jane Simalumba ZANIS in Lusaka.
We now go for a break, but still ahead, 14 girls retrieved from forced marriages.
The government of Zambia and the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, will this June host the 22nd Summit of COMESA Heads of State and Government at the Mulungushi International Conference Center, Lusaka. The summit will take place on Thursday, the 8th of June 2023. The COMESA Summit will be preceded by the 18th meeting of Ministers of Foreign Affairs on Tuesday, 6th June, and the COMESA Business Forum on Wednesday, 7th of June 2023. The theme of the summit is Economic Integration for a Thriving COMESA, anchored on green investment, value addition, and tourism. Delegates from the 21 COMESA member states and beyond are expected to attend the COMESA Summit in Lusaka. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Information and Media and COMESA.
Welcome back. Now, 23 girls aged between 14 and 16 were forced into marriages in Chilubi Island. 14 out of the 23 were retrieved from the forced marriages through the Natwampane project. Take a look at this report.
He is on a familiarization tour of the OneStop Centres under the Natwampane Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Project in Northern Province. Northern Province Minister Leonard Dimbao first paid a courtesy call on Chilubi District Administration, where he learned that about 23 girls between the ages of 14 to 16 years were forced into marriages. And as the Natwampane project comes to an end in June this year, Mr. Mbao wants government departments to sustain the one-stop centers dotted around the province.
Under penetrative sexual assault, we have 4 cases. Physical assault, we have 10 cases. Child protection, we have 91, bringing the total number to 163.
What we want is for us now to buy into what they are doing, so that we become the ambassadors, we become the owners. But people shouldn't see him and the others said, no, they are the ones who are running this project. They should see you at this. You are the one who is in the forefront, making sure that we end these very, very bad vices.
Annie Sampa is Natwampane team leader for Northern Province.
If the survivors come to the one-stop centers and there are no services, it means we are retracting, we are going back to where we are coming from. So what we are saying is, can we sustain these centers? We can only sustain them if the people who are working there are taken care of.
The minister later addressed adolescents before meeting hospital management and other government departments.
Once we come into civil service, we will say we want to save people. Let's have that vision to say that I want to leave a mark. To say that at least I left something.
In the fishing camps, when a case happens there, we have a challenge because we don't have water transport. And sometimes in those places, there's no network, so the case will be reported late.
Helen Bwalia for ZANIS in Chilubi Island, Northern Province.
And in Luapula Province, the fire brigade and police in Nchelenge district have retrieved a newly born baby boy who was dumped in a pit latrine by its mother at Toka Toka village. Council Secretary Collins Ndirima has since commended the fire brigade and police for their quick action. Here's a report.
Fire brigade and police yesterday around 17 hours retrieved a newborn baby boy from a pit latrine who was dumped by a mother identified as Albertina Mpundu. The baby was later rushed to St. Paul's General Hospital, where he is currently receiving treatment. The district administration has visited the hospital to check on the baby.
The baby was retrieved around the 1740 from the village called Toka Toka. The mother is G2 para 2. When they brought the baby was weighed. The weight of the baby is 2.83 now. At the moment, the condition of the baby is okay. We fed in the morning about 4 meals. At the moment, we are just lacking milk, which will be provided. We have been told that they will buy milk from the district.
Council Secretary Collins Ndirima has commended the fire brigade and police for their quick action in saving the life of the baby.
Thank the team, fire brigade, that for the work that they have done. It is quite tremendous, and want to actually inform the general community that whenever such things happen, as in Cherenge now, we are a fire authority. So such emergency cases, we are actually calling upon the public that quickly they should be able to get in touch with our officers. Previously, Cherenge was not a fire authority, but now with the government making all town councils to become fire authorities. So we are actually equipped with the minimum resources that we have. We are able to actually attend to emergency cases.
Albertina Mpundu is the mother to the baby, and she claims not to know what happened. According to police in the area, the mother to Albertina Mpundu is reported to be on the run. Yvonne Nombo reporting for ZANIS in Cherenge district, Luapula Province.
That item brings us to the end of the news, but before we go, another look at the top stories in our news. African leaders cancelled on food policies. Zambians thanked for preserving memory of Dag Hammarskjöld. Government committed to strengthening adolescent health. And newly born baby retrieved from pit latrine. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of the entire news production crew, my name is Henry Himonde. Remember to join us again tomorrow at the same time for another edition. For now, it's goodbye.